Discover what drives financial fear in our society. What if I told you that most financial fear has nothing to do with money? That the panic we feel around bills, debt, recessions, or retirement isn't actually about dollars at all. It's about something older, more primal, more deeply wired into us than we realize. Here's the mystery. Across history, whether societies were rich or poor, stable or collapsing, humans have shown a repeating pattern of financial anxiety, even when the numbers didn't justify the fear. Why do we fear something that we invented? Why does a society with more wealth than any civilization in human history also report record levels of financial stress? And why, despite centuries of economic evolution, social progress, and global technological advancement, do we keep returning to the same emotional loop? Today we're going to dig into the origins of financial fear, where it came from, how it grew, why it keeps resurfacing, and ultimately, we'll uncover what really drives financial fear in our society today. Because if we can understand the fear, we just might be able to escape it. A history we never questioned. Before we dive into the timeline, we have to challenge one more assumption. Most people believe financial fear is caused by a lack of money, rising prices, job insecurity, recessions, or the economy in general. But financial fear existed even in societies. Without capitalism, without global markets, without banks, without stock crashes, without inflation. So, where did it come from? To understand that, we need to look back, not just decades, but thousands of years to the earliest human communities. We must explore a world before currency, before credit, before markets. A world driven not by wealth, but by uncertainty. This is where the story begins. Fear before finance. 1. The hunter-gatherer mindset. Picture the world 40,000 years ago. Small tribes, harsh environments, limited resources. Life wasn't about getting rich. It was about survival. Yet even in those early days, humans displayed the seed of financial fear. Loss aversion, the instinct to fear losing what little we had. Anthropologists argue that this survival-based psychology still shapes our behavior today. Because even though our environments evolved, our brains didn't. 2. The agricultural shift. Then came the game-changing event. Agriculture. For the first time, humans could grow surpluses. Food could be stored. Resources could be accumulated. Property became a concept. And with accumulation came something new and dangerous. The fear of losing what you own. This fear would eventually become the psychological ancestor of financial insecurity, economic inequality, class anxiety, scarcity thinking, and even modern panic buying behaviors. But the real transformation came later. How civilization created financial fear. 1. The birth of currency and debt. Around 5,000 years ago, the first recorded debts appeared in Mesopotamian tablets. These weren't loans at a bank, they were obligations for grain, livestock, or labor. But here was the twist. Debt introduced a new kind of fear. A fear of failing, not just to survive, but to meet expectations. It wasn't famine or predators now. It was obligation, accountability, punishment for falling behind. Even ancient societies had debt crises, defaults, and what we would now call economic stress. The emotional pattern had begun. 2. Empires and the economics of control. As civilizations expanded, Egypt, China, Greece, Rome, economies became more structured but also more demanding. Taxes grew. Class systems hardened. The wealthy protected their assets. The poor lived on the edge. Financial fear wasn't a bug in the system. It was a tool, a method of control. You worked because you feared what would happen if you didn't. You paid taxes because you feared the consequences. You obeyed rulers because they controlled the resources. Fear became part of the social order. 3. The Middle Ages. Fear reinforced by scarcity. During the medieval period, famines, plagues, and wars were constant. Entire villages faced starvation if harvests failed. Economies were brutally simple. If you didn't work, you didn't eat. If you couldn't pay your lord, you were punished. If crops died, you could lose everything. This created generational financial trauma, passed down through cultural norms, long after the circumstances changed. Which brings us to the birth of modern financial fear. 1. Industrialization, the Great Anxiety Shift. The Industrial Revolution transformed economies faster than humans could adapt. Millions left farming, where survival was physically demanding but mentally predictable, and entered a new world of wage labor, factory schedules, urban rents, company dependence, job competition, technological displacement. For the first time, survival wasn't tied to nature. It was tied to employment. And with employment came financial fear on a mass scale. If you lost your job, you lost your income. If you lost your income, you lost your home. If you lost your home, you lost stability. This was the era when financial fear became social instead of individual. 2. The stock market age. When stock markets became central to national economies, something important happened. People didn't just fear personal loss. They feared systemic collapse. The panic of 1873. The crash of 1929. Bank runs. Hyperinflation in multiple countries. Suddenly, entire societies could feel economic terror simultaneously. This is when the fear became collective. 3. The 20th century. Fear goes global. By the late 20th century, financial fear had evolved into a complex ecosystem of rising expectations, massive consumer debt, global competition, economic recessions, financial scandals, rapid technological change. Every generation faced a new version of the same underlying fear. Will I be okay? When financial fear becomes the norm. Now we fast forward to today. We live in an era of abundance. More wealth, longer life expectancy, more opportunity, better technology, higher productivity. And yet, financial fear is at absolute record highs. Here's why. 1. Information overload. We hear about every market crash, job report, inflation rate, and business failure instantly. We see other people's wealth on social media. We compare ourselves constantly. We track our net worth daily. And the brain isn't built for that kind of exposure. 2. Rising expectations versus stagnant stability. Over the last 50 years, the cost of homes, education, healthcare, childcare has risen faster than incomes. Even people who earn more than 90% of the world feel financially insecure. Fear thrives in that gap. 3. The psychology of scarcity. Research shows, the more we worry about money, the worse our decision-making becomes. Scarcity mindset reduces cognitive capacity. It shortens long-term thinking. It traps us in cycles of fear. 4. The new economy of uncertainty. Today's fears include automation replacing jobs, gig work instability, unpredictable housing markets, global economic interconnectedness, constant inflation anxiety. It's no longer enough to work hard. You must plan, invest, adapt, anticipate, strategize, sacrifice. Financial fear isn't a reaction to the modern world. It's a feature of it. Why society keeps getting it wrong. Despite endless proposed solutions, financial fear persists. Here's why most fixes fail. 1. Education alone doesn't solve it. Financial literacy helps, but it doesn't eliminate systemic instability, inequality, or unpredictable economic cycles. You can know everything and still feel powerless. 2. More money doesn't remove fear. Studies show people earning $30,000 fear money, $75,000 fear money, $150,000 fear money, $500,000 fear money. Even millionaires report feeling financially insecure. You cannot out-earn emotional fear. 3. Technology solved problems but introduced new anxiety. Mobile banking, stock apps, crypto markets, instant news feeds. Technology made money easier to access, but also easier to lose. 4. Government systems don't erase uncertainty. Even nations with strong safety nets still report high levels of financial fear. Because fear isn't only economic, it's psychological, cultural, historical. And that brings us to the real question. Modern parallels, shocking data and repeating patterns. Pattern number 1. Wealth increases, fear increases. In nearly every modern country, financial fear rises as wealth rises. Why? Because expectations outpace security. People fear falling behind. People fear losing status. People fear failing to meet societal standards. Pattern number 2. More choice, more anxiety. Behavioral economics shows that humans struggle when overwhelmed by financial options. Too many investments choices. Too many careers paths. Too many risks. Too many what-ifs. Choice creates pressure. Pressure creates fear. Pattern number 3. Uncertainty amplifies fear. Today's world changes too fast. Technology, markets, job security, global events. Our ancient survival brain can't keep up, so it defaults to fear. Pattern number 4. Scarcity narratives never die. Even in abundance, society still uses scarcity language. Money is tight. The economy is shaky. Prepare for hard times. Jobs are disappearing. You'll never get ahead. These messages shape our subconscious, and they're everywhere. Pattern number 5. Emotional instability persists across history. Every era had its version of financial fear. Famine, taxation, industrial layoffs, recessions, technological disruption, global crises. The circumstances changed, but the emotional response stayed the same. What actually drives financial fear? After thousands of years, endless economic systems, and billions of lives, the true causes of financial fear boil down to 5 things. 1. Uncertainty. Humans fear what they cannot predict. 2. Loss aversion. We fear losing what we have more than we celebrate gaining what we don't. 3. Social comparison. We measure our financial success against others, even when the comparison is unrealistic. 4. Loss of control. When your survival depends on forces outside your control, fear is inevitable. 5. Legacy trauma. Generations pass down financial stress the same way they pass down culture. These 5 forces shape modern society. They decide how we save, spend, invest, and even dream. 3 takeaways. Takeaway number 1. Financial fear is ancient, not modern. It didn't start with recessions, credit cards, or stock markets. It began long before currency existed. Takeaway number 2. Financial fear isn't about money. It's about uncertainty, control, expectations, and comparison. Money is the stage, but fear is the script. Takeaway number 3. You can't eliminate fear, but you can understand it. And once you understand it, it loses its power. Here's the warning. If we don't understand the deeper roots of financial fear, we will keep repeating the same cycles. Panic, crash, recover, repeat. Generation after generation. But if you learn how financial fear works, if you learn to recognize its patterns, then you can step outside the cycle. You can make decisions based on reason, not panic. You can choose your path instead of letting fear dictate it. And that journey begins now. If you found this eye-opening, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because in our next deep dive, we're going to explore how financial systems intentionally use fear, and how you can protect yourself from it. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and don't let fear make your financial decisions for you.